Hello. Starting this video, well, thinking this will probably be the start of a series of videos. Um, I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube about narcissism and growing up with narcissistic parents, and I figured I'd just go into a bit of history on how I discovered narcissism and what led me to do some research on it. Um, I grew up with, a narcissistic mother. Well, really two narcissistic parents. It's just my father hasn't really been present since my early teens, so he's sort of been in and out of the picture. But, growing up, could never do anything right. You get told to do something wrong, there's something wrong with you, you do this, you do that, and you try to change it, and then it's still not good enough, or well, now you're too far the other way. Now it's, what was okay on Tuesday is not okay on Wednesday, and you know how that is, and eventually you just stop trying to do anything because no matter what you do, you're a fuck up and nothing's ever right. So what's the point? Um, as I was getting older and working for a while, and I met my now husband, but at the time it was my fiance, and I was thinking of moving out, and in the process of moving out, and just any time in my life where I was starting to become more independent, or starting to make more money, or starting to be more successful at something, my mother would always sort of step up her game with the verbal abuse, where it would just be to the point where everything I did, whether it be around the house or, I mean, literally everything, washing dishes, brushing my own hair, everything, like every 5 minutes, she had to make a nasty comment about it. And then, narcissists, they pick on something small and then they blow the scope out of proportion. Like, she doesn't like the way you brush your hair on a certain day, so, oh, you never fix your hair right. Oh, you're clueless when it comes to appearance. You never look the right way. You know how they do that? They pick on one thing one day, and then they make it like you do it every day when you don't. It's everything is always, they isolate one thing and magnify it times 10, and it's Armageddon if they don't like the way you brush your hair or the color shirt you're wearing or something stupid like that. It's like, I don't like your shirt. Oh, well, you're colorblind. You never pick the right color. It's all bullshit. It's all just fabricated, blown out of proportion. And, I started to think to myself, this is bullshit. My self-esteem was not good at the time. It never really has been, growing up like that. But I was thinking to myself, I really do not deserve to be treated like that. This is way over the top. This is not necessary. I feel like 9 times out of 10, she's just looking for shit. And, it also started to carry over too to my fiance at the time. At the time it was my boyfriend. How she would degrade him behind his back to me. She'd be like all sweet in his face, and then, oh, he needs to lose weight, to me behind his back. Oh, his family, they're low class, or he needs to dress better. He's not polished. He's not educated enough. He's not, and then she'd turn around and bring an ex up of mine and tell me how my ex was better than my current husband. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, that's not verbal abuse. You're clearly trying to piss somebody off at that point, and you want to react. Excuse me? No. You're just trying to get me upset at that point. Going out of your way to piss me off. And I did some research online about, I forget exactly what I Googled. My mother puts me down all the time, or over-controlling mothers, over-critical mothers, because I figured I knew something was wrong. And, something came up in the search results, is your mother a narcissist? And I was like, well, I don't know if it's that. I don't know if I'd go that far, But I clicked on it because the term kind of interested me anyway, because interestingly enough at the time, I had a female boss that was just a vile human being. I mean, there's really no other way to say it. Just, you know, and so it's crazy. I think definitely a cluster B personality, maybe with a little something else going on. And someone had suggested to me that she might be a narcissist. So I clicked on this just to read more about narcissism and is your mother a narcissist? And I was like, well, I don't know if it's that, but I just clicked on it out of curiosity. And they had about 20 or 30 traits listed out and a paragraph explaining how each trait manifests. I start reading this, I'm just going line by line, I was like, holy shit. It was to the point where my husband was walking by in the hallway and I was like, get in here, you need to look at this. It was that like glaring me in the face, you know? So I was like, okay, I think she's a narcissist, you know, but then the little part of me still was doubting, like, I guess when you're brainwashed your whole life into believing that you're the problem and you're somehow inherently defective and nothing you do is right and nothing you think, none of your opinions, your interpretations on situations, you're told you're so clueless and you don't know shit about shit, and, you know, you call someone out on something and you're wrong for calling them out, it didn't happen. So I started to think, well, maybe I'm just telling myself this to feel better about myself and justify my own problems by saying it's my mom. You know, like, part of me knew that wasn't true, but, you know, there's that other part of you that still thinks, well, maybe it really is me and I'm just trying to rationalize it away. That's just my cat chewing on paper. But what happened was, as time went on that year, and the more I started to move away, and the more perspective I got, you know, what happens... No. Get off the desk. Get off the desk. You're going out. Out. Yeah. I usually don't mind when my cat jumps on the desk and stuff like that, but he was starting to chew on some important documentation, so yeah, that's not good. Yeah, starting to chew on my marriage certificate, which I need for the bank, so that's not good. So yeah, what happens is, when you get away from the narcissist and the abuse, you start to have this sort of trauma response where you're going about your business one day, you're washing dishes, you're sweeping the floor, you're brushing your teeth, and something you're doing or something in your environment just triggers an event of abuse that you went through, and you just sort of freeze. You're like, oh my god, you know, like, I walked by the sink one day, I see my husband had left some dishes in the sink from the night before, and I don't care, you know, I'll leave it, maybe if it stays, like, to the end of the day, I'll wash it, whatever, but, you know, sometimes he washes them, sometimes I do it, I don't care, you know, but I walked by there one day, and I just got this flashback of my mother screaming at me over 2 pieces of silverware that I left in the sink. It wasn't even overnight, it was half an hour. I went to go take a shower, and I had left these 2 pieces of silverware in the sink, and she was screaming at me, you're gonna... And there's, I guess, pasta or mayonnaise stuck on it. She's like, this is gonna damage the silverware and you'll never be able to use it again, which, there's a dishwasher right there, bitch. You know, stop the histrionic bullshit. But it's almost like, not to compare myself to a soldier, because I would never do that, but it is like, it's the same kind of idea, like you're triggered in your environment, and that anxiety, that response, and you just can't have any control over it. And then I'm thinking to myself, you know, my husband leaves dishes in the sink, and the way my mother treated me, her own daughter, over 2 pieces of silverware, I couldn't imagine screaming at my husband that way, to treat another human being that way, let alone my child. I just can't, like, I just don't have that in me. Like, some of these people, I swear that they were possessed by demons, you know, over 2 pieces of silverware. And a similar thing happened once when I was baking, and I got 1 drop of pink food coloring on a granite counter. She went apeshit. And, you know, idiot. Like, she thinks in her head that the granite is somehow gonna absorb the food coloring and it's gonna be stained pink. You know, a 4-year-old kid could probably figure out that that doesn't happen. You just take a paper towel and wipe it off. It's clean. It's granite. It's not gonna absorb the liquid. But no, she was freaking out, and she even said, you know, reminding me exactly how much she spent for the granite, and threatening to take 20 grand out of my account over a drop of food coloring on the counter. So that's just a couple of examples of how you can be going about your business in your house, cleaning, you know, whatever, making dinner, and something in your environment, you'll see something, or you forgot to put something away, and it was like, oh my god, like, you just freeze and you get that flashback, and, you know, and that's part of, you know, part of when, too, I started to realize that it really wasn't me, because these are physical signs of trauma. You know, it's PTSD. It is full-blown PTSD. And it's like a soldier that had gone to, you know, again, I'm not comparing myself to somebody that fought in Iraq or Afghanistan, but in a way, you know, those narcissistic households, it is a war zone, because you have to be hyper-vigilant and on alert 24/7. You gotta be, you know, you don't know what they're gonna throw at you and when. It's just insane. And, so that's really what, you know, when I first really moved out, what kind of made me think, oh yeah, no, it was never you. This woman is seriously disordered. And, you know, the other thing too is how, basically what went down when my husband and I were planning my wedding, and how my mother was getting involved, and just how she tried to take over my wedding, tried to sabotage my wedding, you know, bashing my husband to me, bashing my in-laws. It just didn't stop. And the day, it was a really nice day, my wedding, and we did have, but we really had to fight tooth and nail, my husband and I, to make sure that it wasn't sabotaged by this woman, because she just, you know, it was just an absolute nightmare. And it's supposed to be the happiest time of our life, you know, and it is, but the stress of that last year, I just, you know, that'll be a topic for another video, for my next video about the wedding. But yeah, just, that's just a summary on how I discovered narcissism, and that my mother was a seriously disordered woman, and also, you know, my job at the time was just crawling with cluster B personalities, and that'll be yet another video, but this is just to start, and just to show you how this whole discovery came to be, and where it's going.